All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started just so we have enough time for questions. So, welcome everybody to the first webinar in our new series, Regenerative Medicine in the News. My name is Shay Maresco. I'm the Assistant Director of Enrollment Management here in the CWRU School of Medicine. And I also work closely with the RGME program. So we're excited to launch this series as we hope it'll help interested folks kind of understand what exactly is regenerative medicine and how our degree of regenerative medicine and entrepreneurship can help you join in on some of these revolutionary discoveries, one of which we'll be talking about today. So I'm joined today also by our program director, Dr. Tracy Bonfield, and our education and training program administrator for the RGME program, Ms. Melanie Prestige. So the three of us will kind of divide and conquer these slides and try to keep the presentation that we have prepared about 20 minutes. So that way we have time for questions at the end. Of course, to ask those questions either at the end or throughout the presentation, please feel free to utilize the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. That will allow us to answer those questions for you. So just a quick overview of what we'll be discussing today. We already knocked out the introductions, so I will just briefly cover what RGME and the NCRM are, and then we will get into the good stuff, hearing about how spinach has been turned into cardiac tissue. So the Regenerative Medicine Entrepreneurship Program is a Master of Science program, and that's offered through the Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. The School of Medicine has been ranked number 16 in the nation for research and number 1 in Ohio for research, as well as we remain a Tier 1 medical school nationwide. And the National Center for Regenerative Medicine was actually founded on Case's campus back in 2004. So we just celebrated our 20th anniversary in the fall. That was very exciting. And the NCRM, for short, remains housed here today in collaboration with 3 of the major hospital systems in Cleveland, which would be the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, and the Metro Health System. And RGME is the education program born from the work of the NCRM and has been a master's program option at Case Western since 2019. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bonfield, and she's going to get into all the good stuff regarding how scientists to figure it out, how to turn spinach leaves into functioning cardiac tissue.
Thank you, Shay. So I'm excited to give this presentation. This is really innovation in cardiac repair, but it's so much more than that. It's innovation and thinking outside the box. So regenerative medicine is kind of a concept that bores out of concepts related to biomedical engineering, to medical practices, to engineering practices, to cell biology, to immunology, to cancer biology, to just a whole host of different disciplines that then ultimately get integrated into entrepreneurship, translation, regulatory, governmental oversight for applying these to clinical trials. So let's talk a little bit about this innovation in cardiac repair. So the issue is when you have a disease of the heart, when you have like a heart attack or a stroke, or you get an infectious disease, and genetics can also be involved with this, you can get cardiac tissue damage, and that damage in the tissue that makes the heart actually function less efficiently. And so when the heart doesn't pump as efficiently, you have backup of blood, you can have congestive heart failure, you can get strokes, you can get a variety of other kind of anomalies that go along with that. And it leads to a lot of morbidity, which is kind of like quality of life issues, and then mortality, which is death. So the other thing is, not only is this pushing the blood all the way through, but what is the blood used for? Well, the blood is actually required to go to all of the tissues of your body because it supports oxygenation, that much needed oxygen, and not only oxygen, but sort of the recovery of carbon dioxide so that you can get rid of it, because you don't want to have carbon monoxide poisoning ultimately over time. So the challenge, however, in sort of repairing cardiac tissue is the structure of a heart, and the requirement for big arteries, little baby arteries, and even smaller arteries. And it comes right down to a cell-cell interaction between a blood cell that's carrying oxygen and a cardiac cell. And so this is much like you would see for like a freeway or small side streets in a city. And those are very difficult to build, although investigators are still trying to do that. So the need is to repair this cardiac tissue to be able to provide, sort of substantive oxygenation along with the cardiac cells. And that's where the spinach actually comes into play. So the spinach leaf structure is so unique. If you've ever looked at a piece of spinach, it has a very rigid type of structure to it. And in that structure, you can actually see the vascularization of the leaf. And that vascularization is what carries the sugar from photosynthesis down to the rest of the plant. So like other plants, spinach leaves rely on a intact scaffold, this sort of structural pieces to allow their cells to change volume without disrupting the essential framework needed for that photosynthesis and the transport of that sugar. This scaffolding function is not only a scaffold for structure, but it's also the scaffold that provides vessels for the transport of those sugars throughout the leaf and the rest of the plant. So the spinach leaf study actually takes advantage of that vasculature in the leaf along with the scaffolding to create sort of a matrix with which to grow cardiac cells that can actually function. So the visualization is you could take a patient's own cardiac tissue, their own stem cells, and put it on a leaf that already has vascularization that's made in such a way that it won't interact with the patient's tissue, and provide a structural patch for the cardiac or for the heart so that it can function more appropriately. So when you compare sort of the structure, the scaffold development, so they actually take this leaf and they put it in a bunch of detergents. And so you can see this white kind of structure that ultimately ends up. So it's no longer green, but when you push through red dye or blood, you can see the vascularization. So you still have the structure with which you can put your stem cells. And you also have this functioning vascular system to provide this ultimate capacity to oxygenate those tissue structures. So in terms of implication for regenerative medicine, this is how a breakthrough would shape future cardiac treatments. You'd have a way of using a patient's own cells, their own stem cells, to reconstruct patches to repair their own heart and giving them better livability, so decreasing that morbidity and increasing their survivability or mortality, increasing their life expectancy. So how does this relate to research at Case Western Reserve and the National Center for Regenerative Medicine? In this concept, engineering meets biology. We're advancing our understanding and the structure function, thinking outside the box and using other types of resources and other types of components to be able to support living tissues, and being able to understand from an engineering as well as a biological standpoint of how to take advantage of these already uniquely created structures. Stem cell integration, it can use stem cell biology using iPS cells, embryonic stem cells, a variety of other type of pluripotent stem cells for regenerative of different types of tissues using this type of format. We are a place where CAR T therapy has been a huge breakthrough, both at the Cleveland Clinic and Case Western Reserve. In this setting, we take a patient's own T cells, we manipulate them outside of the body and then give them back to the patient. And these cells now can attack their cancers with better resolution. We also have a program called Omega, in which a variety of different components, both scaffolding, stem cells, and structural pieces are being used to develop living tissues for joint repair as an alternative to using metals, which don't last forever, and they have other issues because they're not really human, right? Metal is not human. And then, of course, we have gene therapy advances where you can enhance gene function. You can actually deliver something that can deliver an important biological function, or delivery mechanisms which can be reparative in some capacity. So what does this mean in the future of regenerative medicine? Well, regenerative medicine is just a logarithmic growing field with some of these understandings in our development of new innovative ways to do science. It's upward movement. The regenerative medicine market is expected to be worth 194.9 billion by 2032. That's up 30.6 billion from 2022. This is growing need. It's a rise in chronic diseases. We're living longer. Our exposures are, certainly sustained with the environmental crisis, so that you have increased issues of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and the need and demand for regenerative medicine continues to increase because regenerative medicine also provides or has the potential of providing clinical impact without severe adverse effects. And of course, there's this emerging market. Interest in development of regenerative medicine has begun across the globe. So it's interactive with markets opening in Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. So there's a huge repertoire for being able to study regenerative medicine and take it further, either from bench to bedside into the clinic to help patients, and also to partner with companies, which is our entrepreneurship program, or entrepreneurship focus. So we're a 1.5 to 2 year program. If completed on a full-time basis, I have actually a student who's doing it 1 year this year. We can also provide part-time enrollment, which is also available. It can be combined with an undergraduate degree at Case Western Reserve, and that is either at a Bachelor's of Arts or a Bachelor's of Science. It's highly customized for your career goals through elective course selection and one-to-one mentoring. I like to challenge students to say, why do you want to take that course? What is it giving you? How does this inspire you to move forward? Partnerships with renowned hospital partners that are here, Cleveland Clinic, Metro Health, allow students to gain research or internship experiences prior to graduation. And I would add that just because Cleveland Clinic and Metro Health are here doesn't mean that you couldn't explore partnerships elsewhere. We have partnerships with Ohio State, with Nationwide Children's, Cincinnati Children's, and beyond. Students can see RGME practices in action through site visit experience to different biotech companies. We currently went to an incubator this week to experience what it's like to start off a company, and what are the expectations, and how do you do the science, and how do you figure out the management, and how do you put everything together to make it work. We've also visited other companies like Trailhead Biologic Sciences, which is an established company, looking at their infrastructure and how are they working, and looking at how they're changing the lives of patients and people. So we're offering an ability to earn micro-credentials throughout the program also, with a discipline. So you can be in it for pre-health, for medical school, for dental school, for vet school, whichever you may want to look. There's actually studies going on in horses to repair their legs after a big run, like in the Kentucky Derby. So there's all kinds of options to be able to use these regenerative medicine principles. You can also be focused more on the business or legalistic components as well as regulatory. We're offering micro-credentials. These are certificates through the School of Law and Weatherhead School of Management, and working on some regulatory certifications as well. So let me have Ms. Prestige jump on. She's the administrator, and she will outline how to apply to our program, and we'd be very happy to have you as part of our programming.
Definitely. Okay, the first portion of the application process is you have to create an account on the CWRU website. Once you have created that account, we require certain documents. The first document is the statement of purpose. And basically what this is a one-page reflection of why you want to pursue a career in regenerative medicine, along with your personal and professional goals. Also include any previous research experience that you have or any interests that you have. The second document that is required is your resume and CV, which I think that's self-explanatory. Transcript, grade transcripts can be, in the beginning, can be unofficial or official from other universities you have attended or have degrees from. When it comes to the point of submitting your application, those have to be official transcripts from the colleges. They also require 2 letters of recommendation, in which I would recommend identifying 2 individuals who can provide a professional letters, such as like supervisors or lab managers, or anyone who can attest for your academic and professional accomplishments. And if you're an international student, we will definitely need TOEFL scores or Eiffel scores. And the amount that you need to pass for the TOEFLs is 90 and better, and the IELTS is 7.0 and better. Once we have received all of these applications, all the required documents, I actually forward them on to the admissions committee, and they will respond back to me, letting me know if this is a good candidate. If that is the case, then I will be in contact with you via email to set up a possible informal conversation, which will kind of help us get to know you better as a person and as a student. And the admission deadlines, we have passed 3 of them already. Wow, can't believe that. And the final deadline is actually submitted by July 15th. And once you will have a decision by August 1st. I think that's all I have on my end. If you need to contact us regarding anything, obviously you can reach out to rgme@case.edu. That goes to all 3 of us. If you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me personally in regards to anything in regards to the financial aid or anything in regards to the documents to make sure we received all the documents uploaded. You can reach me at rgme@case.edu. I think at this point, I'm going to take some questions, if there's any questions.
Yeah, it looks like we have one in the chat, so let me open it up here. I am currently an undergraduate studying biomedical engineering at CWRU. Is it still possible to do the combined Bachelor's of Science, Master's of Science program? Yes. So that is the beauty of the sort of redeveloped combined program that CASE launched last year is yes, you most certainly can, as long as it works for your schedule. You will need to have completed a minimum of 66 credits, I believe it 60, sorry, so a little less, 60 credits before you'd be able to start taking the RGME courses. So for most students, that is like sometimes end of sophomore year, but more than likely junior year or senior year. But yes, certainly a possibility, and we highly recommend it because you're already here. So yeah. I have never felt that anything truly aligned with my passion as much as I did when I discovered the RGME study track. It is in this field that I now choose to channel all of my ambition. I would like to ask, for international students, are there any required certificates or exams? I graduated from a 6-year medical school program, and I now have a deep passion to join your university. Do I need to take the USMLE or any other examination?
I do know that if you have attended a U.S. college or a English-based college and have received your degree from that college, that will be considered, you can be accepted. You won't need to take any additional TOEFL tests or Eiffel tests. I'm not sure about the additional certificate they're talking about.
Yeah, so oh, sorry, go ahead, Dr.
School.
Bonfield.
Yeah, so that's the medical school exam. I think it depends on when you've had your education. you know, where your education has been taken, like Ms. Prestich had said. And then if it's not within the United States or at a English-speaking university, then you would have to do your TOEFL and your IELTS, one of those two exams for sure.
But regarding the USMLE, we're not familiar that that is a requirement. It's certainly not one of our stated ones, and I haven't heard of like central graduate studies requiring that exam. So there's no standardized tests required for anyone to apply to our program. Of course, if you've taken that exam or if anyone's taken the GRE and you want to self-report scores, you are more than welcome to. There'll be a space for that on the application, but it is not required from any applicant. The only tests required are like Dr. Bonfield and Melanie had mentioned, international students that did not receive their undergraduate degree from an English-speaking institution or within the United States would need to submit English language test results, which is typically the TOEFL or the IELTS.
And I wanted to add in terms of the conversation to let us know a little bit about you. It's also an opportunity for you to know a little bit more about us and for us to tell you a little bit more about our programming and what we can provide for your growth and development in your career, and also to define your passion of direction.
Any other questions for us? Yes. Are there opportunities in this program to get more experience or focus in the clinical research aspects of regenerative medicine in addition to the entrepreneurship aspects? Dr. Bonfield, I'm going to let you take that one away.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we are interfaced within the School of Medicine, but our students have done internships or research initiatives throughout School of Medicine, throughout School of Arts and Sciences, throughout engineering, through at Metro Health. You can do a research project. That one is called RGME 560, or an internship, which is with a company, that's RGME 565. The idea is that you get to choose what it is that you really want to experience. And we do the best we can to find that fit for you so that you have that step forward.
Can I get a copy of the research article about the spinach study? So we actually used several to compile the information that was presented today, but I'm sure we can pull those together and send you the links. Not a problem.
There's a great YouTube link.
Yeah, we can send that too. Yeah, we're happy to share our sources because obviously this wasn't a CWRU study. So yeah, we're happy to give credit to those scientists. I am an MBBS and postgraduate diploma in anesthesiology from University of Delhi. Can I get a research assistantship during the MSRGME program? Is there a renal research department at the NCRM or CWRU? I have a good idea for the cure of ESRD, which I want to share with some faculty engaged in renal regeneration. Can I get a PhD position? So there's a couple questions in there. So let's start with the first one of, can I get a research assistantship during the MSRGME course?
You can get an assistantship. You can become an employee of the university. If you're an employee of the university, you do have the option of getting getting free classes that goes along with employment by the university. A research assistantship in terms of financial aid, we do not offer that. That being said, you can be what's called a student employee also, and this gives you some monetary resources as you're moving through the program.
The next question that was in there was, is there a renal research department at the NCRM or at CWRU?
There is a renal research department And there are some individuals who are doing renal research utilizing stem cells. So that would be within university hospitals, but also at the Cleveland Clinic.
And then lastly, can I get a PhD position? So we do not offer a PhD program in regenerative medicine as of yet. Maybe down the line if we all of our wishes come true, but not as it stands currently at Case do we have a PhD program for regenerative medicine.
That being said, you could apply to the BSTP program, which is at Case, that is the PhD program. And there are programs that we are actively working with that you could have a focused approach on regenerative medicine components. So this could be, for example, let's say you were interested in doing cancer biology. You could do your BSTP PhD within the cancer center and be very focused on one of the cancer-based approaches using regenerative medicine technologies, be like the CAR Ts I mentioned. You could also be involved with the genetics department. They do a lot of work in neural stem cells and neural stem cell development. And then there's some other work that is being done over in cell biology that has some of the nephrology components in regenerating tissue in that sense.
Awesome. And then we got another question here of would the links just be sent in an email? So yes, so everyone that attended live today, I'll be able to see that, and I'm happy to send the links directly to you via an email, and I will do that either later today or tomorrow. If anyone is watching the recording of this session and you would like those links sent to you, please just reach out to me at the RGME email address on the screen here, and we'll be happy to send those your way as well. And we have time for maybe like one more question if anyone has one for us. Of course, if any questions pop into your head later today, next week, whenever, you can reach out to us at that email or that phone number. We are happy to assist. We're eager to answer questions and talk to interested applicants to the program. So
yeah, I want to tell you that the work that is being done, that was the spinach work, came out of Worcester, Massachusetts. It's the Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And the two investigators that were doing on there, I was looking for their names so that I could actually give you their names. Oh, here we go. Here, hold on. There we are. I'll give you their names because that's actually very important. And we probably should have said their names. Let's see. Let's see. Glenn Claudette and Joshua Gerschlenk. That would be Glenn Gaudette and Joshua Gerschlenk. And they would be the individuals at the WPI bioengineers in cardiac tissue regeneration. But we'll send you the links.
great questions, everybody, and we thank you so much for attending. Like I said, we were really excited to launch this series and hope to offer more of this type of webinar. So thank you for spending some of your afternoon with us. We hope to chat with you soon and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Have a good one. Goodbye.